Good afternoon, or morning or evening, depending on where you are. I am Steve Skripak, and I am the instructor for the PMBA course Management 5684, Global Management and Strategy. I'm happy to welcome you to the course, and I would like to provide you some background information about the course as well as about me. So if you don't object to me looking down periodically, I'm going to refer to my notes so that I don't leave anything out. So first of all, I'm not a PhD. Please don't call me doctor. That would be a disservice to all those who earned their PhD. I'm a business guy who became a professor 12 years ago, and my official title is Professor of Practice and Management. What that essentially means is that I earned my teaching credentials by actually doing business as opposed to research, and that I have reached the highest level that I'm going to get to at VT without a PhD, and that's not going to happen. I think I said this is my 12th year at VT, and I was previously Associate Dean for Graduate Programs in the Pamplin College. In fact, I was MBA Program Director for the PMBA, EMBA, and full-time EMBA up until a little less than 2 years ago. So there's a good chance that you were in the recruiting class that was the last one that I approved. So if so, then things have kind of gone full circle, and I look forward to seeing you back in class, and maybe we'll recognize some of you from that process. In fact, I was also the one who launched the PMBA many years ago. I guess it's been about 11 years now. And it wasn't my design, but I was incoming as the PMBA program was about to launch. So I was the one who was responsible for the execution of the PMBA's very first class, which was a challenging transition between a TV program that students had partially completed, a new incoming class in the PMBA, and everything in between. So anyway, a little bit about my background with respect to the MBA program. As far as previous courses taught, here at VT, which is the only place I have ever taught, I've taught MBA Professional Development for the full-time program. I taught the Ethical Leadership program, course in the PMBA program. I have taught at the undergraduate level strategy course, the management consulting course, the ethics course, and in the fall now, for the last 3 years, I have taught the Foundations of Business course for our freshman students. In fact, I rewrote an open source textbook that is now used by all the students in the course and has been downloaded, I think, over 9,000 times worldwide, as it is in use in the community college system, Virginia Wesleyan, and some other places as well. So that's what I'm teaching now. This spring I'll be teaching your course as well as 3 sections of the management consulting course. As I mentioned, I'm a business guy. Prior to joining the faculty at VT, I was a business guy with 15 years in the C-suite. 4 of those were at Capital One, my most recent experience. At Cap One, I was VP of Finance for the subprime and affinity markets credit card businesses. I left before the financial crisis, so I take no responsibility for it. I was also VP of Financial Planning for Capital One before leaving to come here to teach. Prior to Capital One, I spent 10 years at Sara Lee Corporation. I had 3 different positions as Chief Financial Officer there. You might recognize the brand Hanes. I was the CFO for Hanes Hosiery. I was also CFO for Ballpark Foods and for a company called State Fair Foods, which is a corn dog maker down in Texas. Probably the most relevant experience I had at Sara Lee was I was VP of International Finance. I was located in Lyon, France. We had companies in 6, I think, different countries. Let's see, Belgium, Holland, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and of course France. That was a great experience for me. I loved living internationally, loved working internationally, interesting language challenges along the way, but that was probably the high point of my career with Sara Lee as far as my enjoyment of my particular jobs. One of my best friends was the CEO of the company, and 20 years later we remain very close friends, and I stay at his house whenever I go to France. So let's see. So I think I'm probably, based on all that experience, maybe more qualified professionally than academically, even though I'm certainly not unqualified academically to teach the course. I did 2 international deals. I didn't do them myself, but I was part of the deal team on 2 international acquisitions, integrating both of them into the company, as well as doing 2 deals domestically, all of which were in the food space. As for the course, let me mention up front that, and this is not to make any excuses, but just to be completely transparent with you, that I was kind of a late emergency fill-in. So it is right now January 17th when I'm recording this. I am still in the process of putting the details of the course together. The syllabus is ready. The cases and readings are selected. The course pack is made. And I've managed to get all that done in about 2.5 weeks' time, which I'm pretty happy about. I feel good about the design. I only mentioned the last-minute nature of my assignment to the course so that you feel free, and I welcome you to offer feedback as we go, because this is the first time that I'll be teaching this course. I took the existing design apart and put it back together in my own way. So I lightened up on the readings from what was assigned to this course the last time it was taught. You're busy people. Academic readings kind of tend to be repetitive sometimes, as well as a little bit long-winded for my taste. So I tried to stick with shorter articles and also minimize the number. There is one that's probably 37, 38 pages that is a little bit of a pill, but the rest of them are relatively short, and there are fewer reading assignments than there were in the course the last time. Let's see. I also tried to pick cases from companies that are in the news. So I don't know about you, but I prefer stuff that is current. I don't like assignments from cases that are 10 years old, 20 years old in some cases. Readings that are that dated. Some of them, they relabel them as classic, and they still try to sell them to you, and there's stuff in there that's good, but particularly with respect to cases, I like things that are current. It's hard to unknow something that's going on in the world today. So looking at a case that's 10 years old or even 5 years old, if it's a technology case, you miss current information, and you're trying to analyze something that frankly is dated. So what I've done in a couple of cases where the material is a couple of years old or more, or I know some major changes have happened with the companies under study, is I've also assigned update articles. And so rather than discussing, for example, we're going to do a case on Uber, which I think is a company that's in the news a lot and is fun and interesting to study, rather than studying Uber in China 2 years ago, and we know since then that Uber has exited China, we'll actually bring ourselves current on what happened with Uber and try to understand why Uber failed in China and what we can learn from their failure in China, so that the mistakes of the past, at least from our standpoint, don't end up getting repeated. But my principal focus, or my principal philosophy with respect to what I assign in this course, is keep it current, keep it reasonably short, and keep it consistent with a 2-credit course. So that has sometimes been my experience with the PMBA, that people have tended to forget that it's a 2-credit course, not a 3-credit course. So having been PMBA program director, at least I can sympathize with past student perspective on that particular point. Grading. I know everybody's interested in grading, so let me explain what's in the grading structure. 30% of the grade will be based on class participation. And I recognize that in a class of 30 plus people, it is sometimes hard to get a minute to get called on when you have a point. So while I will try to spread things around as much as I can, I will also drop the lowest grade, so that if you have to miss a class one day, you're sick, you've got some business thing to take care of, or you just don't feel particularly sharp that day participation-wise, or I just don't call on you for whatever reason, we drop out the lowest participation score, so that you don't end up getting penalized for that. There are 2 case analyses, I call them case briefs, that will be submitted after weekends 1 and 2. So the cases for those are selected, and they're on the Canvas site for you to look at. What I'll be looking for there is a 2-page analysis, essentially laying out what you see as the key issue, a couple of alternatives that are viable, so don't give me back just do nothing, present state, everything will take care of itself. That's not an alternative. You have to take some kind of action in your alternatives, and then a recommended course of action for the company. So within those 2 pages, I would hope that you can get across your understanding of what the key point in the case is that the company needs to solve, really vet 2 detailed alternatives. That will probably be the majority of the paper, is describing and discussing those alternatives. And then a recommendation section comparing the 2 against each other and selecting one and your reasons for which one you choose. Those 2 are each worth 10%, so 20% total on case briefs. You'll also be doing a briefing book. Picture yourself working for a manager or a senior manager, let's say CEO or division head, and you are considering as a division or a company entering into country X, Y, or Z. You want to understand everything that you possibly can about that country. And so your teams, this will be a team assignment, the case briefs are individual. Your team will will prepare and present a briefing book analyzing that country demographically, economically, whatever you believe, politically, whatever you believe to be important. I'll ask you to take the perspective of a hypothetical industry. That would be ideal if it was an industry that someone on your team actually worked in, so that you would be looking specifically at that industry within the target country, because you can't only analyze the macro environment. You've got to get down to some specifics about a particular type of company, the competitor set, et cetera, in that country. So each group will analyze a different country. So if you want to pick your country and make sure you get your choice, then you want to get your request in early. I'll take them in the order that they are received by email, and make sure you've consulted with your group mates before you ask to be analyzing a particular country. Then the last 2 weeks of the class, the last 2 meeting dates of the class, half the class on each date will be devoted to presentations of the country analyses. I hesitated to use group presentations in this kind of a course, but I think it would be useful to everybody to hear about all these different countries and what's going on there, and whether those environments in those countries are receptive to an American multinational entering that country in a particular industry. And so everyone will be responsible for all the material that everyone else presents, because there will be a 20% final exam in the course, and some of the content for the final will come from the presentations by the students. So it will be to your advantage to make sure you're there and paying attention to those other presentations. So 30% will be on the country briefing, 20% of that, or 2/3 of the weight, is on the briefing book, 15-page document or less, including exhibits, and the other 10% will be on the presentation. It won't be necessary for you to have the entire group present. This is kind of like you representing a division of a company and going up to the corporate headquarters. Maybe 1 or 2 people go up and represent. They don't take the entire management team, at least not in my experience in the business world. So you can pick your best presenter or your best two presenters to deliver that. Everyone's grade will be based on what that team of people, however many people you choose to have present, delivers to me as the stand-in for senior management, or the proxy for senior management if you prefer. Let's see. So as far as the other out of class contact time, I will probably record additional videos as I see things pop up in the news. So I can't anticipate what they're going to be or how frequent or how long, but I will want to share some things that are going on currently that I pick up on in the news that relate to the class material, so that we're not just meeting once every 4 weeks talking about the cases and not having any contact in between, but we're actually applying the material to current events and seeing how it plays out in practice with things that are going on in the real world right now, or right now once the class starts. So if I see news pieces like that, I will maybe comment on them, do it in video format, and that will be the out of class, or that will count towards out of class contact time. I will also schedule office hours. I haven't done that yet, but at least once in between each of our class meetings, I'll be available for an hour to answer any questions, have any discussion that you might be interested in having. And of course, I'm always available by email, and I do answer it. I try to answer it as quickly as possible. Keep in mind that I will also have 3 undergraduate classes going on at the same time, so try to be a little bit patient if I'm not as prompt in answering as I might otherwise like to be, or as you might like me to be. So the rest of the information on the course is available on Canvas. I look forward to a fun and educational semester with you. I think we will both learn from each other. Certainly you're going to bring experiences that I don't have, just as I bring experiences that you don't have, and perspective, particularly from your work internationally, if you've done any, or from your research that you will do for the briefing book. So don't hesitate to contact me if you have questions. I look forward to meeting you, and have a great time in between now and the start of class. Take care.